Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Shobowale. We begin in West Africa, where the army in Burkina Faso says it has lost at least 7 soldiers and killed 20 terrorists following militant attacks on 2 military bases in the north of the country. According to a military statement, 4 volunteers aiding the army in the fight against militants were also killed in the attacks on Thursday in Lorum and Samatenga provinces. The army says it seized or destroyed weapons, vehicles and communication equipment used by the attackers. The violence came a day after a soldier was killed and another wounded in a roadside blast in northern Burkina Faso. Still in West Africa, back here in Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari is asking leaders in the south of the country to seek ways of curbing the activities of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra and its military wing, the Eastern Security Network. The president was speaking on day 2 of a state visit to the Ebonyi state capital. The president says the activities of the 2 groups, just like any terrorist group, will be treated with all the seriousness it deserves.
Terrorists who unfortunately have also brainwashed a certain segment of the population that continue to contribute their hard-earned funds towards their hate-filled messages, but now have them terrorized through their brutal killings, truncation of commercial activities, restriction of freedom of movement, and the ability to exercise basic human rights must be fleshed out from amongst us, and that can only be done with the support of the people. I have listened carefully to the various appeals from the elders to the traditional leaders regarding a wide range of options. And as I have said previously, this matter remains in the full purview of the courts, where it will be properly educated. My worry is for our hardworking and innocent civilians for whom life is already tough and would like to just go out and earn a decent, honest living. There are many that fit this profile, and the government owes them that obligation to protect their lives and property. I will once again repeat, no one has the right to carry an AK-47 rifle, and anyone seen in any part of the country doing so and is not a law enforcement officer is a threat to our peaceful coexistence and should be treated as such. As we find ourselves in the process of selecting another round of leadership for our country, I have repeatedly insisted that among the many legalities I am committed to ensuring is that of a free and fair elections.
Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari speaking there. Moving on now, U.S. authorities have arrested and charged a Liberian man alleged to have served as a general in a Liberian rebel group involved in brutal wars decades ago. According to a statement by the U.S. Department of Justice, 43-year-old Laye Kamara, who was also known as the Dragon Master, is accused of immigration fraud. He's alleged to have falsely indicated that he had never been a member of any insurgent group, among other misrepresentations, while applying for a visa in 2011 and 2012. Mr. Kamara is alleged to have served as a high-ranking general for the Liberians United for Reconciliation and Democracy group in the country's 1999 to 2003 civil wars. In North Africa, a Sudanese protester has been killed after an armored vehicle ran him over during a rally against the country's military rulers. The Central Committee of Sudanese Doctors says the 23-year-old activist was hit by a vehicle belonging to the coup forces during rallies in Khartoum as it was heading towards the presidential palace. Sudanese people have continued to demonstrate since the coup in October last year, with dozens of civilians killed in the crackdown by security forces. According to doctors, the latest death toll brings the total number of people killed in the protest to 95. And to Ethiopia's Tigray conflict, the United Nations says a convoy of 27 trucks carrying nearly 1,000 metric tons of food and other essential items has reached Mekelle in Tigray region over the weekend. This is the fourth humanitarian convoy to reach Tigray since the transport of aid resumed at the beginning of April, following more than 3 months of interruption.
Humanitarian update from Ethiopia, where our colleagues tell us that a convoy of 27 trucks carrying nearly 1,000 metric tons of food and other essential items reached Mekelle in the Tigray region last weekend. That's on the 29th and 30th of April. This was the fourth humanitarian convoy that reached Tigray since the transport of aid resumed at the beginning of April, following more than 3 months of interruption. In total, 169 trucks have reached Tigray since convoys resumed, transporting some 4,300 metric tons of desperately needed aid supplies. Food and other aid from these convoys have been dispatched from Mekelle to priorities areas around Tigray where they're being distributed. Fuel that has recently arrived is also allowing critical operations to be expanded. The rate at which aid is arriving into Tigray, however, remains a small fraction of what is needed. Essential services, including electricity, communications networks, banking services, remain largely cut off. The UN, along with our partners, is continuing to work with authorities to urgently scale up the deliveries of relief supplies into Tigray, including seed and fertilizers, ahead of the critical summer planting season. We're also working with authorities to expand much-needed assistance in areas of Afar and Amhara regions that have been affected by the conflict. In Amhara, food partners reached some 56,000 people with food in the past week. Since late December, more than 10 million people have received food assistance from the government, the UN, and NGO partners.
And in Rwanda, President Paul Kagame has suspended his Minister for Youth and Culture. A statement from the Prime Minister's office says Edward Bamporiki's suspension was as a result of matters of accountability and their investigations. He has also been put under house arrest while being investigated for serious cases of corruption. The 39-year-old was previously a vigorous supporter of President Kagame and the ruling party. The poet, film producer, and famous radio drama actor had been in cabinet since 2019 and was previously a member of parliament. He's yet to comment on the corruption allegations against him. The World Health Organization says a third Ebola case has been identified in the Democratic Republic of Congo city of Mbandaka. The patient is a 48-year-old man believed to be a high-risk contact of the first Ebola patient identified in the DRC's latest outbreak, who died on April the 21st. DRC health authorities declared a new outbreak in the country's northwestern Equatorial province on April the 22nd. A second victim of the virus died on April the 25th after experiencing symptoms for more than a week. The victim, a 25-year-old woman, was said to be the first casualty's sister-in-law. Vaccinations have since commenced in Mbandaka, with 281 people vaccinated so far, according to the WHO. And now 30-year-old Zandile Khumalo, a hydroponic farmer, is on a mission to turn South Africa's shopping mall rooftops into vegetable farms. It's a dream that started a few years ago on a 2,000 square meter backyard space at her family's home. Now, the industrial chemistry graduate is growing vegetables for sale on a hydroponic farm, and she supplies her clients fresh produce on the day of use, cutting down shelf life and retaining freshness.
A 300 square meter rooftop farm. That's what 30-year-old Zandile Khumalo has turned the top of the Morningside shopping center in Sandton to. She says agriculture is something she's always loved.
The starting of hydroponics, I started as a consultant back in 2016, and therefore the passion then grew into having my own farm in 2019. The motivation of it is to be able to give fresh vegetables to our people, our communities, and be able for the restaurants to be able to serve fresh lettuce.
She grows a variety of fresh vegetables like baby spinach, tomatoes, lettuce, and other salad veggies, and is able to sell about 400 heads of lettuce a week.
Basically, we're a small company. We've got just one tunnel and just supplying about 400 lettuces a week.
Zandile tries to cut down shelf life by supplying her clients on the day of use. That's part of her business model, for which she has very big dreams that require an investment injection of about 10 million rands for things like modern greenhouses as well as proper pack houses.
So this whole rooftop is the first pilot stage. This is the first phase for the pilot stage, of which is a 300 square meter tunnel that we've got with the systems inside. Therefore, once we've all filled up the entire rooftop, we've got 9 shopping mall centers throughout the country to be able to build on those and be able to bring much more vegetables closer to their market too.
Are you making profit?
Depends on how your market is. If you are to plant what is needed by that market, by that location, it makes your life much more easier for you to actually see profits out of what you're planting for the people.
We joined Zandile for a fresh harvest for delivery. The order is a crate of lettuce for the Hussar Grill, one of the restaurants she supplies below inside the shopping center.
It's very, very convenient. That's the best thing to do. Anytime I need something, she's there in a dash speed. I'm very, very happy with her products. Every time we get things from her, it's very, very fresh, and we can't complain. Since we have used her, we have never had any complaints, and our clients are very happy with the products from Zandile.
South Africa being a water-scarce country, hydroponics, which also makes room for recycled water, may just be one of the solutions. But how organic or close to it can hydroponics grown produce be?
Organic is defined as using soil. Because we are soilless farming, we prefer to call ourselves natural farmers, because everything that we use, it comes from natural grown things. So we use cocoa peat coming from coconut husk. Our seeds are not GMO, so we are able to germinate from the coconut husk, making us natural. We depend on natural sunlight.
With the fourth industrial revolution in mind, Zandile emphasizes the importance of introducing technology-driven agriculture to the young generation. Her organization, Neighborhood Roots, is already walking that talk in communities.
In our country, I believe that we need to enhance the teaching ways that we give to our youngsters. As the country is moving into the 4IR and the technology is developing in a much more greater manner. So if they are able to innovate much more younger, and we're able to assist them as a country and enhance them and give them the resources that they need, therefore we can be able to have much more better systems within the innovation of hydroponics.
Zandile Khumalo is the third child among 4 children and studied industrial chemistry at the Vaal University of Technology near Johannesburg. Armed with her big dreams, hopes for investment and determination to expand and create employment, she says the plan is to conquer all provinces in South Africa, one shopping mall rooftop at a time.
The World Health Organization says the pandemic has illuminated the staggering data gaps in countries around the world. According to the WHO, Egypt's estimated death toll is 12 times higher than the official count. It estimates that 1.2 million people died as a result of the pandemic in sub-Saharan Africa by the end of last year, compared with an official count of 155,000 in the same period.
COVID-19 has illuminated the staggering data gaps in countries. We know that data is the lifeblood of public health, and not all is good in the world of data. Too much is unknown. There is too much delay in getting life and death information. We conducted an assessment 2 years ago, and we found that 6 out of 10 deaths globally are not registered. And 9 out of 10 deaths in Africa are not registered. It is also important for us to remember that over 70 countries do not have accurate cause of death reporting. And as you know, that we needed to know the direct and indirect impact of COVID pandemic. And to assess that, we needed information on deaths and causes of deaths. And we have seen that countries have lack of capacity. And this lack of capacity is a result of long-standing lack of investments in data and health information systems. So this truly is a clarion call for all governments to invest in civil registration and vital statistics, and also good integrated surveillance systems and health information systems.
Meanwhile, South African officials say daily COVID infections in the country rose by almost 60% between Wednesday and Thursday this week, amidst concerns that the country faces a possible fifth wave. According to the National Institute for Communicable Diseases, there were 9,757 new recorded cases, and the positivity and hospitalization rates are also up. The health department says 2 Omicron subvariants are driving a surge, which is concentrated in 3 major provinces: Gauteng, Western Cape, and KwaZulu-Natal. Some experts argue that from a technical definition, the country has already reached a fifth wave and earlier than it had anticipated. On Thursday, the National Department of Health extended by 3 months some regulations, including the wearing of face masks indoors, restrictions to public gatherings and persons entering the country. It pushed back a deadline to announce revised health regulations to allow for more public consultation following the lifting of the 2-year-long COVID disaster declaration. The country has been the worst affected by the COVID-19 pandemic on the continent and has faced some of the harshest restrictions, but the authorities have wrestled down the number of deaths, which stood at 7 for the last 24 to 48 hours. Meanwhile, there is growing pressure on countries across Africa to buy COVID-19 vaccines from South Africa's Aspen Pharmacare, the first company to produce the vaccines on the continent. It follows warnings from the company that it may have to stop producing COVID vaccines. The head of the continent's leading public health body, the Africa CDC, is now urging COVAX, the international scheme which many African states rely on for COVID-19 vaccines, to buy from the plant. Meanwhile, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa says he's working with his counterparts in 4 African countries to try and save Aspen's COVID vaccine production. Time for our Africa Tech segment now. 2 university students in Nigeria are helping individuals spend and save money in the most efficient ways possible. The 2 friends, during their free time in school, built a solution called Tracker, a personal finance tool that individuals control over their financial goals. Take a look.
Rashid Aro is a 300-level law student of Afe Babalola University who is seeking to give individuals control over how they spend their money. Rashid says he first got the idea when he realized how much he was spending that he couldn't account for.
One of the problems we face in school is the fact that we spend on a daily basis, and sometimes we do not necessarily know where this money is coming from. Suddenly we just discover that, boom, like money has finished in our account. There's no way I always know the amount particularly I spend on food or the amount I spend on getting school things and all that. So everything is just literally scattered. And I just see that, oh yes, I've spent 20K within 3 or 4 days, and there's really no way for me to account for the expenses I made.
Realizing that this was a problem without any existing solution, Rashid reached out to his childhood friend, Oluwatimileyin Ogunme, who is a computer science student at Babcock University in Ilishan, Remo. They brainstormed on different solutions that didn't see the light of day.
Development of the application began in October 2021, but we had the idea earlier that year in August. But Rashid and I have had multiple entrepreneurial opportunities before that, with the likes of a mobile insurance application, which we did not follow through with, and a possible student marketplace.
Later in July 2021, we came up with the idea of tracker, then started cooking up, and we got a solid idea by August. By October of 2021, we started building, and by December, we were done. One thing Timmy and I were trying to target was something that has never been done in Nigeria. So the moment we get an idea and discover that it has, when we get an idea, one of the first things we do is to check if something like that exists.
After a series of idea blocks, they finally came up with Tracker, a revolutionary finance tool that gives individuals control over their finance goals.
So with Tracker, you are able to have all your bank accounts and financial services in one application. And right now on the platform, there's the availability of over 20 plus financial services and banks. And alongside this, you're able to create custom tailored budgets to better understand your financial lifestyle, as well as expense tracking features built into the application.
When building the solution, one thing they both had in mind was to build one that's tailored to the Nigerian market. And within the few months they had to work together, they believe they have been able to achieve that.
And finally on the program, some good news from Somalia, as the country's parliament has announced that the long-awaited presidential election will finally take place, and that 329 lawmakers from both houses, 54 from the Senate or upper house and 275 from the lower house, will elect the country's 10th president. The presidential election date will coincide with a historic day, as the country will also commemorate the 79th anniversary of the Somali Youth League, formed on May the 15th, 1943, by 13 young activists who spearheaded the struggle for a united and independent Somalia in the 1940s and 1950s. The committee says the presidential candidates will address Parliament on May the 11th and 12th on their policies ahead of the vote. The presidential election, which is 15 months behind schedule, comes after Somalia concluded parliamentary elections in April. Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed, whose term in office officially ended on February the 8th, 2021, has been under pressure after the election date passed without resolution of issues related to how the vote would have been conducted in the country. And that's the program. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Teniola Shoboale. Have a lovely weekend.